Come here. How are you?
Well, thank
Hmm? Fine?
Fine, thank you.
Good. What about the delegation from Scotland, from Wales? Did they come to participate or just find out if they can? Why not? अस्सलाम वालेकुम रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू शुरू हो गई है ना ट्रांसमिशन ठीक है and we have a short discussion group here, not exactly discussion group, but I have invited them to come and sit with me and ask any questions that they might feel like asking.
Thank you, sir.
And introduce yourself first. Last time we forgot to do that, didn't we?
I think most people know me by
No,
now,
but
but
all over the world,
sure,
I mean.
sure. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm Saeed Ahmed Jones, and my brother here, Ibrahim Noonan,
Yes.
who's with us. And this afternoon, we're going to ask Hazur a few questions. We was thinking perhaps it'd be an ideal opportunity, Hazur, as if we could invite people, English-speaking people throughout the world, that if they have questions, if they would like to write to us,
Of course,
and
yes.
we could
Most
put it
welcome, yes.
to you on
Most
their
welcome,
behalf.
yes.
The first question I have for you is, during Tashahhud, we say, Ashhadu Allah ilaha illallah. We'd raise our index finger for that. Is that to signify that God is one, or what is the actual reason for it? I can't seem to find it in Hadith.
I think it is a natural expression which has been, in fact, given a place of recognition in Islam. In many languages, I have noticed people, when they speak something with zeal or be deeper involvement, they start moving their hands to signify that the body is with the meaning of the discussion, whatever they're saying, their whole heart, body is with it. And that is why the more sentimental the people are, more body movements they include in their conversations, like the Italians, like the Spanish, etc.
Yes, yes.
They speak about half the language with their body motions and the rest with the tongue.
Mm.
So the more conservative use this method less. But always still, some people somehow add the body motions along with the subject of discussion. So I believe that it has two significances. Number one, God is one, as you have noticed. And number two, in the prayer, the entire body could not participate in that. So that's just one little finger,
I see, yes.
representing you
Yes.
in saying that, yes, we are in it. And then this is also the finger, which is generally pointing finger. When you point at something, you don't do it like this or that, It's always naturally, all over the world, this is the finger which is used to that. So that also is a pointer that God, He's our God, one God.
Thank you. I believe Brother Ibrahim has
Yes, have you something to say?
I certainly do.
Yes.
There's a young gentleman, he's a Roman Catholic. He read one of our Viva Religions magazines, and he was reading the subject of capital punishment.
Right.
And his question, if I may read it to you,
Please,
he
do.
wrote in, the topic is capital punishment justified? And he goes on as he says, I'm a practicing Catholic who acknowledges the God of love to be present in Muhammad and the Ahmadi Islam. I do not believe in capital punishment as it involves slaying a person when one is in no physical danger from him or her. Also, it is wrong as it does not allow the guilty person time to live and redeem himself. Muhammad certainly did not abolish capital punishment, but he was outstanding in his mercy and forgiveness he showed. All surahs of the Quran began in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. It is clear that Muhammad allowed capital punishment due to the society in which he found himself, and I am convinced that in our civilization it would be a great opponent, he would be a great opponent of the death penalty. Jose, we're just wondering if you could comment on that.
Of course. In fact, I have been commenting on this question during my various question and answer sessions repeatedly in Europe, even in England, of course. The fact is that this question has to be viewed in its totality. It's not a question which could be answered in yes and no with a narrower perspective. The fact is, on the one hand, there is mercy for those who commit crime, and there is, on the other hand, the question of mercy for those who are made innocent victims of such criminals. The question to be addressed is simply this, that in the final balance, what would happen if you show greater mercy to the criminal? At whose cost do you do that? If, in the end, it happens to be at the cost of the innocent, law-abiding citizens, then it is not a mercy, it is a mercy in disguise. It's cruelty. In the final analysis, it would amount to be saying that let's be merciful to the criminal and let's be unkind and cruel to the innocent. So God knows human nature. He's the creator. So all the laws which are found in the Quran are not made of by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This again, there is a misunderstanding which exists in the West as if he is the author of the Quran. It is God. And God is of all times, and space and time do not matter. He transcends above this. So to say that it was an old age, it was an Arabian culture or society which was addressed is wrong, it is a false impression. What the Holy Quran has is simply the human nature before it. And that is the reason why we insist that despite the passage of time, the Quran remains still effective and operative. And it cannot be outrun by time, because human nature is unchangeable. So all questions of crime and punishment must be addressed in relation to the human nature. And the final outcome would be decided by the question whether one particular injunction in this regard is promotive of peace and love or promotive of hatred and vengeance. Now, if it were promotive of hatred and vengeance, then capital punishment would find no place in the Quran. But it is not so. To our Christian questioner, I respect him for the nobility he has shown and kindness with which he has addressed Islam and the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let me remind him of his daily family experience. In English they say, spare the rod and spoil the child. Now, what does that mean? Is it a profound expression of wisdom or just a stupid something, a raving? It is profound, I feel, but not entirely. Spare the child and spoil him sometimes holds good, sometimes does not. So the Quranic teaching in this regard is what I'm going to tell you. Then you will understand. The Holy Quran says that if you are transgressed against, you have the right to take your revenge only to the extent that you have been wronged, not an iota beyond. But such a person, if he decides to forgive, will it be better without condition in all situations? No. The words used by the Holy Quran are فإن أفا وأصلح من أفا وأصلح فأجره على الله ومن أفا وأصلح, and who forgives, provided that forgiveness results into reformation, his reward would be with God. What a beautiful expression. How beautifully balanced. You know, this is the philosophy of dealing with the crime at all stages, not only with relation to the capital punishment, but even at home. If you spare children the rod, knowing that this will encourage crime, then not only you are being untrue to your own child, but you are being untrue and unjust to the whole society. Such boys grow up as hardened criminals, more likely than not. But if there is a sensitive, responsive child who responds to love and cares for your attitude to him, if just turning your attention from him is a punishment, and you take the rod into your hand, then you will spoil the child. So it's not always that the rod helps in reformation. Rod sometimes spoils. So this is a matter of wisdom and common sense applied in everyday life. So that is why the Holy Quran has provided capital punishment, but also given an opportunity for those who have been wronged against to forgive. Now this is another aspect of the Quranic teaching, and its perfection. You see, when a crime has been committed against one person or a family, what right has got the society to forgive? I mean, they don't feel it like those who have been deprived of their dear ones. And you forgive on their behalf. Somebody has robbed you and turned you pauper, and you say, all right, the society says, all right, don't worry, we forgive. What right, what on earth do they have the right, where on earth do they have the right to do that? So the Holy Quran says that the relatives, particularly those who are their wali in the sense that if somebody dies, who inherits? He is the nearest of kin. And who takes care of somebody. In all these connotations, the concept of wali evolves. And the Holy Quran gives this right to those who are directly concerned, against whom the crime has been committed. If they forgive, then there will be no capital punishment meted out to such a person. And they are the hurt people, they know how far they can go in forgiveness. Then all criminals are not alike either. Some are very cruel. Some have no sense of justice. I know cases here where a criminal was forgiven and he committed the crime again. Again somehow he got scot-free, and again he committed the crime. Until after committing many such heinous crimes, he requested himself that it is beyond me to control myself. So please imprison me for life. You know these cases?
Yes.
And he was imprisoned for life. So how can we decide such profound issues relating to human psyche, which varies from person to person in its expression, not in its basics, by just giving a thumb rule, forgive all the such criminals or kill all these such criminals? Now this is one aspect, and another one is that the experience shows, and I'm talking of statistics, that in such countries where there was a capital punishment at some time, and then it was lifted, the crime of murder has definitely increased.
It has in this country.
In this country?
Yes.
In America also?
Yes.
It has become free.
Yes.
In whichever state in America the capital punishment is lifted, so also has got lifted the level of of murders. So the basic facts, available facts and data, prove that the Quranic teaching is the best and the most balanced one. Yes, please.
As we take out travel insurance when we travel abroad, which is very similar to taking out life insurance. Car insurance, we have to take out a certain amount to protect others.
Right.
But what is the Islamic feeling with regard to life insurance?
Insurance as a whole should be dealt with, first of all, from the point of view of the elements which are wrong, which are false, which are, forbidden. And then we have to study the question whether those clearly forbidden elements are found in such a contract as insurance or not. From that point of view, there are two major elements which make a contract in Islam as unlawful. They are, first of all, usury or interest, and secondly, it's gambling. Both gambling and interest are forbidden.
Yes.
So, in whichever contract they are found singly or doubly, that contract will become wrong accordingly. So, when once the same question was addressed to Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam, he inquired about the conditions. And when the conditions were presented, both the elements of interest as well as gambling were present. Gambling in the sense that if you pay a certain contribution towards an insurance contract, and if you die before the time that the contract matures, then then you get more than what you pay.
Yes.
It's one end of the gambling. The other end is that you lose all if you reach the mature age.
Yes.
Now, that is pure and simple gambling.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Yes.
in whichever context such gambling is present, that would be forbidden.
I see.
Now, in case of the car insurance, for instance, there are two things. Number one, as far as the third party goes, it is essential, made by law, so you can't do anything about it.
Yes.
And as far as the comprehensive insurance is concerned, this is almost practically essential because, and it does not, I think, does not have that element of gambling, because whatever you pay towards the coverage, but you do not get anything extra. Let me see now. In the case of accident, you do. But when it matures, then you don't get anything, correct?
No, at the end of the policy.
At the end of the policy.
Yes.
That's
at the end
lost.
Of the year, whether
Now,
you claim
I
or
think
not.
this area lies in a bit shady area. Because on the one hand, we gain from this contract in case of accidents that which we have not paid. That would make it very similar to gambling. On the other hand, when you investigate, and that is the point which I think is still a bit shady and needs further investigation, when you pay collectively towards such an insurance, what is done by your money, to your money? If that money is employed on behalf of this collective interest, and through the employment you gain enough profits to meet the accidental losses, then there appears an element of search. Then the answer cannot be that precise and clear cut, because that is like a joint venture of collective benefit. It's not like a lottery at all. It's a real regular need of the society in which you participate daily, and the demand of the style of life is such that you cannot afford sometimes even to pay the installments if you meet an accident, you know.
Yes, yes.
So these are complicating
Yes.
factors.
I was wondering about provision for your family, that they're not left destitute in the event of your death.
There I'm
equal
hesitant,
amounts
yes.
of what you would have earned. if
There
you had
I'm
lived.
hesitant. Here in this case, like you said, you know, it's the case of the car accident and insurance seems to be similar to that of life. I think the similarity is not that clear.
Mm,
It's not exactly alike,
no.
because as I have told you, in the car insurance, it is not some extra money you want to have for yourself or for your family. It is this a sense of urgency to save yourself from a predicament or something that may befall you.
Yes, yes.
In case of life insurance, that element is totally lacking,
Mm,
because life is a natural process.
yes.
One may meet one's death through accident, but still life and death are major things you can't avoid.
No, no.
And in that case, if somebody ordinarily dies, he would leave whatever is available to him. So this is the law of nature which continues from times immemorial.
Yes.
But in case of this insurance, there is certainly an element of lottery
Mm.
and
Yes, I can
gambling,
see that, yes.
which plays its role, but the pressure, on the other hand, is not as much. It's not an extraordinary pressure of accident to a car, like I've told you.
Yes, yeah.
There are also other factors involved, like somebody is maimed for life. Other things happen, and in a rich society like the West, the expenses for treatment and expenses for maintaining such people who are maimed or disabled for life are very high. And the risks involved are accidental risks, not natural risks.
Yes.
So that is why I am a bit soft in that direction. But as far as the life insurance goes, I don't think there is any justification. I have never done that. But some people who write to the center asking for permission for life insurance under this plea or that, Jamaat has appointed a board of ulama who go into the merit of cases, such cases. And the guiding principle which they have before them is just this twofold investigation, whether there is an element of gambling involved and an element of interest on the other hand.
Yes.
Interest, for instance, gets involved and it can also be avoided. There are some policies in which you pay more than the normal to just, raise the policy to a higher level than ordinary, so that you are made a shareholder in the interest.
Mm. Yes.
You see?
Yes.
Now that is obviously wrong.
Yes.
There is no justification whatsoever.
Mm.
But there are policies in which this element, you can avoid it. So there the factor of interest goes. But then we investigated once further and deeper into the issue by inquiring about the such companies as have, right from the start, not present day companies, right from the start, such companies as evolved along certain lines. We discovered that in the beginning, both these elements were present. The conditions of policy would require you to pay such sum as would also make you a shareholder in the interest they earn, and also either you lost everything or gained more than that.
Yes.
Then it was, I think it was Harwich or some British company which first made history by making a cooperative and declaring it that the capital belongs to us, all the shareholders, and we are partners. As such, whatever we gain, we spend. Whatever we do not gain or lose, we also share. So that was one step in the right direction, the direction of Islam.
Yes.
And then there came the tendency, grew the tendency among the insurance companies not to invest their capital by depositing their capital into banks and depending entirely on interest they earn on that. Rather, they would avoid it.
Yeah.
They began to move away from interest and started investing their capital in real estates and other such businesses. So that removed them further away from what was wrong in the direction of the right.
Yes.
So ultimately, we discovered that in this contemporary age, the companies which deposit their sum in some banks are only compelled by the law, by certain provisions of the law, which makes it essential for them to deposit a certain sum, a proportion of their capital in state banks and some other approved banks. This is for the safeguard, as the governments believe, of the general public. But whatever is left over, the companies cannot afford to deposit in the banks for the sake of a meager interest which they earn.
Yes.
They earn much more by investing the capital into some well worked out projects which they know may render them a profit of say 20% or even more. So that compulsion is a compulsion. So as a whole, the whole system is moving away from what is forbidden to what is not forbidden. That's a good sign. But still, about the life, I'm not sure. I'm not happy at all about that. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so my next question is concerning salat.
Yes.
What it concerns is people who work during the day, and the only time that they may get to offer their prayers is their lunchtime. And the question is it all right to offer your Zuhr and Asr together?
You see, it all depends on your preferences. I remember when I was a student here, we were given about an hour off in the middle of the day, and I could say my prayer, all right, and Zuhr prayer, and also have lunch, and then I could say my Asr prayer after the lectures were over. So I don't think there is any compelling need for the people to do that. In the lunch hours, the Zuhr prayer can be said, and it would. I think if you say it normally without hurrying through, I mean with some poise, you can still finish it in 15-20 minutes, and still you can have enough time to eat and return.
But what about, for example, you will miss your Asr, your Asr namaz because you're working at that time. When is the best time? Can we do those
You
things?
see, you're talking perhaps of a winter period when the days are shortened. There, this becomes essential sometimes to say the Asr prayer together with Zohar. Because if you do not do that, then there is a danger of missing the Asr prayer altogether. So it is lesser evil, certainly lesser evil, to join the two prayers rather than to miss one altogether.
I wonder if you could make comment on the fact that in Islam we bury our dead. Is there a significance or religious significance about burying the dead rather than cremation? And why is cremation prohibited in Islam?
I think it is out of respect for human values. You see, what necessitated, what motivated the pharaohs and the people of that age to preserve the bodies of their dead? What was the idea behind? Islam was not revealed. It was sheerly human nature which is giving expression to its love for the dear ones, and it wanted them to be retained as much as possible in the same form. So that is why mutilation of the dead was supposed to be a heinous crime
Yes.
and a grave insult to those who, the living relatives of a person killed in war, for instance. That means it is a human expression. And Islam's teaching is in accordance with it, in harmony with it. So I think cremation is becoming more and more popular in the West, not because of its advantages over burial, but because of two reasons. Number one, the society is becoming careless, less and less care. There is a growing separation between brother and sister and mother and child, etc., etc. Distance is increasing. So they do not care that much as they used to do in the olden days.
Yes.
And secondly, a question of economy. In lessening regard on the one hand and growing expenditures for the burial,
Yes.
you see, the outcome would naturally be in the favor of cremation and to do away with it and let's get done with it. Huh? So I think that is the reason why.
Yes.
Otherwise, as I have explained myself, natural human evidence, as I have quoted oral history and other times, is that man wants to preserve the dead as far as possible, and it is considered more respectful to bury them and make a grave. And that is why the expression Christian burial. No,
Yes.
why do you say Christian burial? You know, it's so much common here.
That's right. Are there any circumstances when cremation is permitted in Islam, such as disease, smallpox, or something like this, that it would be
You see,
dangerous?
Anything which is for the sake of the living, at the cost of the dead, as long as it is not clearly forbidden, would be permissible and welcome. Because life cannot be sacrificed for the sake of the death. Death can be sacrificed for the sake of preservation of life.
Yes. Yes.
So if that is the reason, there is no reason why it should be prohibited.
I see. Thank you.
So my question is, can you please give us the concept of Trinity according to Islam?
Trinity.
Trinity.
Yes. You see, in my verse also I refer to this briefly, and I tell you one thing, it's very, I think, relevant to the issue. I have about finished a small book on the issue of gradual decay of Christianity. The title of that book is From Fact to Christianity, a Journey from Fact to Fiction. There I have dealt with this particular issue from all possible angles, and also, as far as I could go, in depth. So that is a very large discussion. I would not like to go into this small space, into all details, but in brief I tell you the Holy Quran makes a claim that Trinity is not the teaching of the Christ. Trinity is an imitation of the legendary religions and mythical religions of the past. These two claims are made by the Quran. And the first claim has now been fully endorsed by the modern Christian scholars. Even in the modern biblical dictionaries, under Trinity you will find mentioned the Trinity is not a concept found in the New Testament. Nowhere. You may read into lines, but you can't find Trinity mentioned at all. And when I read this one of the such statements, I was really intrigued by the effort that which the author was making to make people see how that could be read into the lines, behind the lines and underneath the surface. Is nothing which is found there, in fact. The question is, if a doctrine is fundamental to your religion, then it should not be read between the lines.
No.
It has to be pronounced so clearly, loud and clear, as they say, that there is no ambiguity left about it. So when the Christian scholars of modern times admit that Trinity is not so clearly or even mildly clearly mentioned, then the Quran is proved right.
That's true.
And secondly, as far as the second claim of the Quran goes, now it is an accepted fact. And many and honest Christian scholars have openly declared that St. Paul imitated the prevailing mythical religions of Rome, and it was with the help of those ideas prevailing in Rome that he gave Christianity this form as has been inherited by the modern Christians today. And it was an effort, conscious effort on his part, to make it popular in Rome. Because in their backgrounds they had an idea of Christianity, three gods and, godheads.
Yes.
So he thought that they would accept it as their own. And that is what he did. And in this book I have mentioned it in depth and in detail, And also I think I have mentioned that unfortunately Christ, who sacrificed all he had for the sake of unity of God, was ultimately sacrificed at the altar of Trinity, Roman Trinity.
Yes. Yes.
That is how it sums up.
Yes. So really, what St. Paul did was to try and gain numbers
That's
by adapting the
by
the
sacrificing
laws.
values.
That's right. It'd be similar to us saying to the English population of this country, well, we know that 5 times a day for prayer would be very hard for you. But in your case, we'll make it 3. Just sign here.
Or rather, that according to some interpretations of the Quran, one can say that it was not 5 time prayers, it was 3 or even less.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it would amount to saying that.
Yes.
Sacrificing values for the sake of numbers is something is abhorring and abhorrent to the Quranic teachings. The Holy Quran is so firm on this issue
Yes.
that Allah addressing the Holy Prophet, imagine no one else than Holy Prophet himself, that if you deviate an iota from what I have told you, you will lose whatever is in the life here and whatever is in the life to come.
Yes.
Everything will be destroyed. An iota. So that is that emphasis for, of course he couldn't do that. It's for those weaker people who were to follow.
Yes.
That if I don't spare the one I love best, where will you stand before me?
That's right.
So the values must never be sacrificed for the sake of numbers. And this is what Allah does in nature, doesn't he? For every childbirth, how many numbers are destroyed and sacrificed? Billions.
Yes. Yes.
Billions of possibilities
That's right. Yes.
which have been created are lost for the sake of some values
Yes.
which stand higher than in the case of other sperms which could also give birth to children.
That's right.
So this is the lesson we draw from nature, and also study evolution. And this is the nutshell, ultimate outcome, the central issue of the entire process of evolution, that number must be sacrificed at the cost of value.
Yes. It's quality rather than quantity.
Yes, sir.
Yes. as you know, that I was a Christian just for 1 year.
Yes, I know.
And I tried in that 1 year very hard to be a Christian. But I could never understand that Hazrat Isa, alayhi salatu wasalam, that he was born of a Jewish family, he was circumcised, he went to the synagogue, he preached at the synagogue, and all his life he acted and he taught as a Jew. And I asked a bishop once, where did this Christianity come from? You know, it didn't make sense.
And you look at James, his real brother,
Yes.
his vicegerent, in fact, the caliph, real caliph. What was the difference with St. Paul or his followers later on? All those who belonged to that school of people who originated from such disciples of Jesus, who were trained by him himself, they stood firm on the side of unity,
Yes.
and they stood firm on the side of Judaic teachings continuing in Christianity.
Yes. Yes.
And look at St. Paul, who had never seen,
Never met. No.
and whatever experience he quotes, now the scholars, the Christian scholars, believe it was a fit of epilepsy at best.
Yeah.
And his vision was just, a sort of raving mind. So
Yeah.
you go for that and abandon the verdict of those who throughout lived with Jesus and were trained directly by him, and they never submitted to the values of St. Paul and people like him.
No. No. I mean, many times Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam said, I haven't come to change the law.
Of course,
But
is that
not
to
one
perfect?
dot.
Yes, not
so
one dot.
that was the law of Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam.
But St. Paul did it very cleverly, rather cunningly, if I'm permitted to say that word, if it's not offensive to some. If it is, I withdraw it, but the outcome remains the same. He did it through a very distorted and, in a strange way, involved philosophy. He said that after all, flesh it is for which we commit crimes, and flesh is crime. So when Jesus gave up his life for the sake of the criminal, what he did was, it was flesh he discarded.
Yes.
So with him goes the entire law of the Torah, because then he likens the law of the Torah to flesh and the spirit of Torah to soul.
Yes.
So he said, for the sake of keeping soul intact, flesh had to be sacrificed. And then he argues, now it becomes as simple as that. If there is no law, no crime. But if there is no law, no innocence either. What he forgot to notice was, it was chaos to which he was taking mankind. It was reversion to the point where there was chaos, and then God said, be, and it was.
Yes. Yes.
So order has to be created, and law means order. So disorder means crime. To do away with the entire law, divine law, is to submit to the will of Satan practically. And that is what happened. It was not innocence which was born out of that doing away with the law. It was a free for all to commit whatever they like. And that is why, ever since that time, we have never witnessed any upward trend in the morality of Christianity. A loose attitude which has, in fact, destroyed the peace of the whole world, ultimately. Only 1 minute, they say, is left. Well, when you are involved in such discussions as these, the time passes on very quickly, doesn't it? Yes, very fast.
We could stay here all day if we could.
But unfortunately, today I was given a message that we should come 5 minutes later. And that the way it was delivered was to make me understand perhaps 5 minutes more could be added to be on the safe side. So I came later than that. Next time, inshallah, we'll be here for about 1 hour.
People will write to us and we can represent them.
I think they can even write during the discussions. Telephone. So telephonic questions could be invited from anybody, anyone in the world, and we would entertain them, right?
Yes, inshallah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.